An update tonight on a former Summit County deputy charged with stealing thousands of dollars in overtime from the sheriff's office. We're now learning this wasn't the first time he was arrested for theft.
Our news at 5:30, a police-involved crash that left 2 friends dead is now at the center of a $100 million lawsuit. Men losing their lives in the wake of the horrific accident.
Georges is accused of Facebook messaging a suspected drug dealer's wife, telling them to leave the area before today and to, quote, put everything
13 Louisville police officers have been disciplined after having inappropriate contact during undercover prostitution sting operations. Many of the officers, part of the Louisville PD's street crimes unit.
An Iowa State trooper captured on camera tackling a motorcyclist is pleading guilty to civil rights violations. As part of the plea, the now former trooper, Robert Smith, admitted he used excessive force when he hit this motorcyclist in the face in Cedar County back in 2017. The court has not set a sentencing date. Smith went before a jury for civil rights charges in July. The case ended in a mistrial. The state previously paid $225,000 to settle a lawsuit filed by the motorcycle.
Yeah, for the nearly 1,000 people who live here in Geary, they've lost their entire police department and 2 of their 3 city council members in a single day. Residents tell me they feel like their city is crumbling around them.
If this isn't an emergency, then I don't know what is.
That we don't have much of a city anymore.
On Thursday morning, the entire Geary police force turned in their badge. That's 5 officers, including the police chief. The announcement came on social media. The police chief thanked the town and encouraged residents to be more active in city government. No reason was given for the mass departure, but the former police chief told KOCO the now active interim chief was hired by city council to audit the Geary Police Department, something that's raised eyebrows around town.
The same person who's now the acting interim chief was hired by the city council to do an audit on the police department, and now he is the interim chief. That seems a little suspicious.
But that wouldn't be the only shakeup in Geary. 2 city council members resigned the same day. City Councilman Rocky Coleman wrote in his resignation letter his core values didn't align with the city's direction, saying the city shouldn't allow personal goals or agendas to affect the city. City Councilwoman Christy Miller told KOCO she quit because she didn't think the mayor was acting in the city's best interest and she wanted out. KOCO reached out to the city of Geary to ask what's going on. A spokesperson for the city didn't say what the cause of this strife was, but told us an interim chief of police has taken over, and both the Blaine County and Canadian County Sheriff's offices are helping during this transition.
We're standing outside the law office of Daryl Thompson, who represents 38-year-old Ben Tika, who was arrested on May 24th by Alaska State Trooper Sergeant Joseph Miller and Trooper Jason Woodruff when they mistook him for his cousin Garrett Tika, who was wanted on a misdemeanor warrant according to charging documents. Initially charged with lesser 4th-degree assault charges, Deputy Attorney General John Skidmore said in a statement that the indictment represents a reassessment of the case, prompting the grand jury to pursue higher charges. While carrying out the arrest warrant on Tika's cousin, charging documents say troopers deployed pepper spray, a taser, and a dog to apprehend Tika, causing severe injuries that Tika's attorney says he still suffers from today.
These are serious physical injuries that was recklessly caused by these officers' actions by means of a dangerous instrument. That dog is a dangerous instrument. We think the grand jury got it right, and we're pleased that the state took the time and trusted the citizens to make that decision.
Now, in a statement from the Alaska Department of Public Safety, Communications Director Austin McDaniel says that the department continues to fully cooperate with the Office of Special Prosecutions, and the alleged actions of the 2 troopers do not represent the work of the Alaska State Troopers. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's News Story.
Good morning, and welcome to the Bad Apple Report. It's 7:30 a.m., bright and early right here at home on the range. Thank you so much for being here today, folks. I really appreciate it. We're going to start right out in Waco, Texas. McLennan County Sheriff's Office deputy has been fired, after arrest and alleged assault of wife on Mother's Day. I think we're a little late to the party here, guys. But this was published on October 30th, so let's see what's going on here. Waco, Texas. McLennan County Sheriff's office deputy was fired after he was arrested for assaulting his wife on Mother's Day, an affidavit alleges. Okay, Alan Holloway, aged 37, is charged with assault and family violence. On October 22nd, just the other day, officers were sent to the 100 block of Crockett in Hewitt on a verbal disturbance on an open 911 line, an affidavit states. Oh, they're listening in. What's going on? The victim at the scene reported that Holloway was her husband and that the incident that night was really only verbal, according to the affidavit. Okay, what's going on here, you guys? While officers were speaking with Holloway at the scene, the affidavit states dispatch informed authorities that the victim made comments during a previous 911 call about Holloway assaulting her on Mother's Day. Hey, the victim, according to the affidavit, said she had pictures of bruising on her arm from an apparent unreported incident. Authorities started investigating the incident on scene. And then the incident from Mother's Day, the affidavit states. The victim said during the Mother's Day incident that Holloway grabbed her arm, causing her pain and bruising, the affidavit alleges. During the investigation, the affidavit states, authorities got pictures of bruising on the victim that were taken on May 15th, 2024. Additionally, the affidavit states a third party who was made aware of the Mother's Day incident also corroborated the victim's story. Okay. Holloway was arrested on Monday, the 28th. McLennan County Sheriff's Office Deputy Chief Cody Blossman said Holloway was fired after the arrest. Well-ity, well. He didn't want to be on the Bad Apple Report, and he made it on the Bad Apple Report. That's right. Let's move on with the show.
How do you feel about what has happened here?
I would immediately respond with, I'm gut punched. I'm disappointed in what's occurred.
While investigating prostitution in massage businesses, undercover officers in the Louisville Police Street Crimes Unit engaged in inappropriate touching with suspects who were arrested and criminally charged. The incidents occurred between October 2022 and July 2024. 23 prostitution cases were filed. There were 28 suspects facing 32 criminal charges. The Denton County District Attorney declined the cases, and almost $248,000 and 2 vehicles seized from the suspects had to be returned to those people. How did this happen?
There's been kind of a culmination of events that we believe contributed to what actually occurred. We believe that officers started with good intention. We believe that their focus was decent and that their intentions were well off. We believe that even though they received training and established guidelines on how to operate, they deviated from those training and those guidelines early on.
13 officers were identified in the investigation. 2 sergeants and an officer terminated. 7 others suspended without pay for various times. 1 captain demoted. 2 officers counseled. Some reassigned. How intimate was the physical contact?
We've only been able to ascertain that all of the physical contact was from the suspected prostitute to the officer. It did not involve sexual contact or sexual intercourse.
The Denton County District Attorney's Office, in reviewing the filed cases, became concerned about some details in the probable cause arrest affidavits.
They may have included comments, descriptions of the touching to support the arrest.
Cheryl Wadley is professor of law at the UNT Dallas College of Law.
The assistant DA who spotted that trend or those circumstances and those admissions of inappropriate touching is to be commended, because there has to be checks and balances at all levels.
What do you say to the public? Do you think this hurts your image here in Louisville?
There's one thing to say in this particular instance. I am sorry. That's the first thing the public needs to know. There isn't any other way to approach this. The second thing is having this conversation helps us demonstrate our integrity and transparency in the issue, right? And then going forward, I want the public to know the police department has dedicated members that do their job every day effectively. This is not representative of the Louisville Police Department.
Chief Rollins tells me he will not disband the unit, adding that a covert operation is necessary because of drugs, guns, and even prostitution. But the unit is smaller now. He says there will be a top-to-bottom analysis of just how that unit has been operating and a new plan, a better plan, for going forward.
All right, Sean Wright.
Army specialist is now under arrest and facing charges in connection with the murder of a fellow soldier. Investigators accuse 21-year-old specialist Wooster Rancy of murdering 23-year-old Sergeant Sarah Roque, who you see here. They found her body in a dumpster at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri last week. Rancy, who is with the 5th Engineer Battalion, is also charged with obstruction. The Department of Army Criminal Investigation Division, which is the primary federal law enforcement agency of the United States Army, is overseeing the probe. The department has not specified a motive for the killing. It is also unclear if Rancy and Roque knew each other.
It's been 1 month since the fatal crash involving Warren police that killed Cedric Hayden and Duane Pettis.
And I want to know why and why and why.
And the emotions from their families are still overwhelming.
It's so heartbreaking to even live every day knowing we will never see him again, never get a call again. He will forever be broken.
After filing a $100 million lawsuit against the city of Warren and the officers involved on behalf of Cedric Hayden, the families are standing united behind a second lawsuit filed Tuesday on behalf of Duane Pettis.
These men were both killed, tragically killed, by reckless conduct of officers of the Warren Police Department.
And asking the same questions about why the crash happened and why charges have yet to be filed against the officers involved.
We're here to bring light on it. We're here to talk about it because this happens all the time. And the police need to be held accountable.
Warren officers were in a patrol car when Hayden and Pettis were driving home from work and hit both fathers who are already missed.
He had two beautiful little boys that he looked up to and did everything, but for your cops to come and just take a precious soul like that and no answers, that's wrong.
That's why they say this is about much more than money.
This is how we get justice.
I'm going to stand strong. And I'm going to get answers, and I'm not going to back down.
Sources told 48 News that both Julian Johnson and Jefford Wright are in the middle of this investigation centered on one case with several incidents. Johnson has been with HPD for decades, and Wright has been on the force for more than 10 years. In August, we reported the accusations focused on an improper relationship with a suspect who is out on bond. The case has been reported to Internal Affairs, but a Huntsville attorney says that the state attorney general's office was called when nothing was done. We put in a Freedom of Information Act's request for the officers' personnel files. After almost a month, we received the documents. However, Wright's records for his 2022 and 2023 personnel evaluations were not included. Wright is a high-ranking officer who works for the Internal Affairs Department. Internal Affairs is in charge of investigating the conduct of its officers. We then submitted another public request specifying information for both officers' Internal Affairs files. In an email sent to 48 News today, City Attorney Eddie Blair confirmed that these were indeed the officers under investigation, but he could not release the Internal Affairs files to us because of the ongoing investigation.
The Lee County Sheriff's Office says this woman, Savannah Georges, now a former LCSO employee, tipped off a narcotics trafficking suspect. Deputies say 35-year-old Michael Banks sold fentanyl to undercover deputies 3 times since August at his house in Fort Myers. Deputies say Banks had hundreds of grams of meth, cocaine, and fentanyl at his home on Southwest First Place in Cape Coral. When deputies received a warrant to arrest Banks for drug trafficking, they say Georges, who worked as a clerk in the warrants division at the sheriff's office, tried to warn Banks to run away. LCSO says Georges reached out to Banks' wife, saying she had important information to give her ASAP. That's when Georges is accused of FaceTiming Banks' wife, telling her about the warrant and to leave before October 30th. Georges is also accused of sending screenshots of LCSO emails to Banks' wife. On Monday, deputies stopped Georges outside of her home on Dudley Avenue South in Lehigh Acres, took her devices, and drove her to LCSO's headquarters, where they interviewed her. Deputies say Georges admitted to the crime. The sheriff's office fired Georges. LCSO says she has no previous concerning or notable incidents in her file. The Lee County Sheriff's Office says...
Okay, folks, looks like we've got ourselves another one of those DDWI. Drunk driving, deputy driving while, you know what I mean. Off-duty Washington County deputy charged in drunken driving crash. Driving and drinking. An off-duty Washington County Sheriff's deputy has been charged with criminal vehicular operation, and carrying a weapon while under the influence after causing a crash Sunday in Afton. This is not good. State Patrol says 58-year-old Campbell Blair, the Blair snitch of Hastings, crossed over the center line and collided head-on with an SUV. Both drivers and an SUV passenger were taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Okay, the SUV had 6 passengers, including 5 children. Okay, all right. That's what happens when you're a drunk driving deputy driving while intoxicated.
This is Brenda Tatlock Burke. Her daughter says she was killed by her husband, Mike Burke, a retired RCMP officer who then killed himself.
He was very controlling.
Tatlock Burke had been visiting her daughters in Alberta. They took her to the airport to return to Nova Scotia on October 16th. She was planning to leave her husband.
I asked her multiple times before she left, "Are you safe? Are you going to be okay when you leave?"
2 days later, she was dead. The RCMP say they were called to Enfield, Nova Scotia for a well-being check. Inside this house, they say they found a woman who had died by homicide and a man by self-inflicted injuries. They say they won't release any further information due to the Privacy Act and out of respect for the family.
Nobody's ever asked us what we wanted to keep private.
The RCMP has now confirmed this is a case of intimate partner violence, but only after CBC News conveyed the family's frustrations. They didn't originally label it as such. The force declined an interview and still won't confirm the case involves a former Mountie, saying it can't disclose anyone's past employment unless it's to advance an investigation.
When you're protecting people who have that kind of authority or stature in society, you're making it really hard for people that are in that position to leave because they think that it's only happening to them.
They're that much more vulnerable in terms of their own safety, their partner's access to weapons.
This advocate says there's not a lot of research in Canada around the prevalence of police-perpetrated intimate partner violence.
There is some research, however, coming out of the States that indicates that intimate partners of law enforcement experience domestic violence at significantly higher rates than the general population.
I just hope it helps even just one person.
Tatlock Burke's daughter says she wants her to be remembered not just for the terrible way she died, but as an outgoing person who loved to sing.
The Summit County Sheriff's Office hired Marcelo Thomas to work as a deputy at the jail. This past July, records show Thomas was secretly indicted for stealing thousands of dollars from SCSO in overtime hours that they say he didn't work. According to the report, Thomas stole over 380 hours of overtime between December 2023 and May of 2024. That totals more than $21,000. So we looked into Thomas's background and found he was arrested for similar charges in the past. In July of 2013, reports show while working at North Coast Auto in Bedford, Marcelo was observed on video camera picking up his manager's iPhone, then placing it in his left front pocket. That phone was later tracked to Thomas's home. The report states his manager called him up, asking him to return the phone, but when days passed with no reply, the manager pressed charges. Records show Thomas pled no contest to a reduced charge of disorderly conduct. The next year, records show Thomas was once again charged with theft, this time for stealing an estimated $800 from Sprint Wireless in Independence. Thomas pled no contest to a reduced charge of unauthorized use of property. In 2014, Thomas was ordered to complete a shoplifting course and pay back the $800. He was also placed on probation. But in 2017, records show he violated that probation and was sentenced to 10 days in jail.
That's a wrap. Thank you so much for being here this morning, folks. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. And you know me, I'm going to whip up another batch of bad apples just for you. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. bright and early. Have a great day.